a 2-yard push into the end zone and an overtime victory for your Kearney Bulldogs.
The Bulldog Radio Network proudly presents the Coach Minnick Show on KMO-TV and 102.7 FM, Kearney's hometown radio station. And now here's the hosts of the show, Mike Davis, Jim Dickerson, and Coach Logan Minnick.
All right, I'm not sure I heard that in my earpiece. I may be having some technical difficulties. I have all kinds of difficulties, but do this. Welcome yourselves to the Coach Minnick Show, because I have to tell you right now, I'm surrounded by greatness as I get it centered up here, and I'm looking on either side of me. I got Kelly Gentry on one side, and of course, His Highness, the Coach Minnick of your. Yes, thank you. That's our live studio audience. Yes, absolutely. And one Brian Watts, who is the absolute hardest working man in Kearney. I've mentioned it before, and we know that none of this would happen without him. So he could go on strike and ask for more money, I suppose. And yeah, he's shaking his head. Yes. So we'd be cooked. Another terrific Bulldog victory last Friday night, and another 42-7 win. 5 in a row, right, Kelly?
That's right.
5
games in a row over 40.
Over 40. And by the way, Kelly Gentry is going to do Jim is out again. Jim is in training. And this is a very important thing in his job, if you know that what he does, flying different types of aircraft, you have to have the training to fly those specific airplanes. And in all seriousness, it's probably a good idea that he's at this training for the benefit of those who, of course, would be riding behind him, in a coach area. So
I thought they said those things fly themselves.
Well, somebody did, and I will assure you it's not true. Nonetheless, Kelly will be, Kelly and I will both be along for the live play-by-play broadcast on Friday night, Coach, against the Belton, what are the Belton guys?
Belton Pirates.
Pirates, yeah, that's right. The Pirates, who I believe were one of our toughest games last year, which we played at their house, and ended up being maybe a more interesting game than we would have hoped for. But as it turned out, we walked away victorious, and but we're facing them tonight. But I just want to mention that Kelly's going to be in Jim's place tonight. Coach, I want to talk about this amazing victory against Grandview the other night. I don't think I've ever seen we watched it on the game feed, which is great. You can watch it over, you know what I mean. You can watch it on your computer from anywhere, and it was great. Thank you for whoever did that. Thanks. But that game was, to me, just a powerful display of Kearney Bulldog offense and defense once we got rolling. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, very pleased with how the game turned out, obviously, because that is, going into that game, you got the number 4, number 5 ranked teams in Class 4. So we told our kids all week, this is kind of a measuring stick to see where we're at. It's going to be a playoff type atmosphere as far as the play on the field. So kids, we had the best week of practice we've had. And we told our kids, that's going to correlate over, and sure enough, it did. I was a little upset with the slow start. Obviously, when you fumble on the first play offensively after your defense makes a huge goal line stand, disappointed for the defense there because they wanted to pitch a shutout bad, and I think we'd had that opportunity had we not turned that first one over. But hats off to our kids after that point. It was lights out, O&D. And again, the score may not indicate. I think the game was a little bit closer than what the score indicated. But at the same time, we put together a full game and got after a really good team.
Yeah, and I think that's what I noticed about it is you could tell that this was not just a slouch team. These guys came to play, and of course, as we've talked about many times on this very program, is we're always going to get everybody's A game.
Right.
I mean, we're just that kind of a team. Coach Backus. Steve Backus does a little write-up every week, and it ended up in my email feed. And he just does a terrific job here. I think he's looking for another job, maybe. He's a sports writer.
Sports
I
writer.
don't know. You might want to talk to him
Yeah.
about that, Coach. But let me just read his lead here because it captures so much of it. The Kearney defense was impressive on the night, holding the high-octane Grandview offense to just 7 points. The defense put on an outstanding performance as Aiden Smith notched 12 tackles, 5 for loss, and Tyler Jarrett had 9 tackles, 1 for loss. Linebacker Theo Grace racked up 13.5 tackles, while Brock Kohlauer had 2.5 tackles. Gavin Warren snagged an interception in the end zone as well. Nice riding, nice capture of an incredibly tough defense that night. Those guys didn't just bring the lumber, they brought the lumber truck, and it was amazing. Oh, my goodness.
Yep. Going into that, we knew, Grandview's an 80% run team, and they want to impose their will. And as you guys saw, they're big and physical up front, and they do a really good job over there. So our defense kind of took that as a challenge all week because of course, we gave them they're just going to bully you guys. And, so we got them pretty riled up as well. But again, like you guys said, kudos to those guys because Grandview came in averaging over 40 points a game. Minus the forfeits, that was a 6-1 ball team.
Right.
Defense came out as they have all year and played well. And anytime your defense is playing the way as ours is, you start looking a little bit forward, going, hey, maybe we do have a shot at this thing. And again, that's almost everybody you listed there, with the exception of Theo, are seniors. So they're a group that understands, and we talk about it all the time, understands team defense and who fits where and doing their job, and they play so unselfish. Because there's times like Aiden had a ton of tackles this week, and there's other weeks where he's taking on double teams and understands that's his job to let the linebackers run. So really proud of how that defensive group's coming together.
Coach, one thing I noticed too was the first half very physical, both sides of the ball. And then when you guys came out in the second half, literally just imposed your will, both on offense and defense. Was that due to some adjustments that you guys made, or what was the turning point on that? Because it was a pretty close game at halftime, and then the second half was just all Kearney.
Yeah, I think part of it was that first Grandview drive was like an 8-minute drive, so they almost took the whole first quarter out of there. So we really only had three possessions in one play offensively in the first half, so we didn't have it a ton. But at the same time, hats off to my coaching staff, because we go in at half, we get on the iPads, we see what we like, see what we're getting, and make some little adjustments. We honestly didn't adjust that much other than tell the kids we're going to come out and we're going to play Kearney football. I laughed, though, because I told our defensive coaches, I said, hey, we got the ball coming out. We're going to go on an 8-minute drive here, stick one in, and then we get out there, and I'm planning on calling a run play, and I see that there's single coverage on Manny. So we scored in like 3 plays in 2.5 minutes. And so I tell my defensive coaches, hey, I'm sorry, didn't quite take 8 minutes off. They're like, hey, I don't care how long it takes as long as you score points. But that was just kind of funny, because I even told our kids, hey, we've got a 1-score lead. We're going to turn it to 2. We need to take some time off the clock, keep their offense off the field, and then we're throwing a 60-yard post route to Manny on the first play. But great execution. Both passes that Casey threw to Manny on those posts were absolute dimes, and great catches by Manny on both of those as well.
Yeah, you'd love to see that combination, those two guys playing so well together. And they looked like they were just on it. They were in sync. Especially last Friday night. I've seen them sort of heated up here in these last handful of games, and which, by the way, boy, doesn't the season get by quickly?
It's gone fast.
But it is it's quite a combination, and it's a talent that Casey, for one. We have an amazing amount of speed and talent on this team. I think that we sometimes might perhaps take for granted, just because there's so much talent across the board. There's talent throughout our conference and district and teams we play that we see on a weekly basis. But to have a couple of guys like that on your team is just so meaningful, and I'm not trying to just single them out in lieu of others. There are just a whole host of others that we're obviously going to talk about. But I did want to mention, Kelly, let's talk about Casey for just a minute.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask Coach about it because when we were looking at the stat sheet, I saw, man, 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then I went over and looked at the completions and attempts. He was 6 for 7 for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I know Brian's got the graphic on it. Casey was our player of the week this week. So thank you to our sponsors for doing that. Conrad sponsors that each week. So Casey was our player of the game, I should say. But when I looked at the attempts, I thought, wow, that's incredible. 250 yards on 6 completions, 6 of 7. So I know you, like you just mentioned, a couple of big ones to Manny, had the big throw to Cameron also on the screen. And it was good to see Bryce get in the end zone too.
Yep. Like I said, 2 of those were, we gave Casey a little flack on that. Well, 85 of it was on Cam's 3-yard pass that you made. But at the same time, yeah, he played lights out. Like I said, the two passes that he put to Manny were unbelievable throws, right on the money. And then we put a new screen pass in last week. It was the first one that Bryce scored on, a little jailbreak inside screen there. And it was kind of funny because all week we'd said, well, maybe we need to slide Manny or Cohen inside. And Bryce was like, no, I can do it. And obviously he ran it perfect all week. And to get him more involved, because again, he's a giant athletic kid who can run. As you saw in that play, he catches it and just outruns the whole defense.
Yeah,
right
went untouched, I think.
Yes.
So hats off to our kids as well, executing a brand new play we had just put in that week. It was actually, we saw it on Grandview's tape, and we're like, gosh, we kind of like that. Let's show them how to run it. So our kids loved that play went as well on that. And then, like I said, so the first 2 scores were on long screen passes. But again, that was just a product of Grandview likes to play straight man-to-man, no help from the safeties. So when you do complete passes, they're going to be big plays.
Yeah, I love seeing Bryce Page out there. He's been a guy that I've been watching all season long and thinking surely he's going to get open and he's going to do something just like he did the other night, have an evening like that. But I also know, and we've talked about, he's a terrific blocker. I mean, very unselfish player.
Yep.
And the kind of guy that I think any coach is going to like at the next level because he's out there and willing to do just whatever it takes.
Right, very unselfish. Like a great example of that was this year we haven't split him out as the number 1 receiver as much as we had in the past. Well, on Friday we had a 3rd and 5 down in almost the red zone where we split Bryce out to the single side, and you just see the safety start to creep over, so they were going to double Bryce, so we hand it right to Cam up the pipe, and he goes untouched. So little plays like that probably go unnoticed of just by lining him up out there, you pull 2 guys out of the box. And again, he is very unselfish. Like when James Shaw got banged up and we needed a tight end, and he jumped right in. Coach, I'll play tight end, whatever we need to win. So hats off to him because he probably hadn't got as many targets as he would have if he'd have been on the outside. Yeah. But at the same time, our run game has benefited drastically from having him in there.
You can't really overstate how important it is to have a guy like Cameron in the backfield. I noticed that how the Grandview defense was patterning every move he made on any kind of motion in the backfield when he was on offense, and anything he did, these guys were all over. In fact, there were a couple of guys you knew that they were coached to watch that guy. Don't let him get loose. And yet he got loose.
Yep, he made a heck of a play on that screen pass. I'd like to say that was all coaching, but but he breaks the 1 tackle, and then hats off to, we had another, Tyra Smith's actually beating Cam to the end zone, so we had another offensive lineman that's outrunning or getting down and making a block at the 5-yard line on an 85-yard play. So that's incredible. It goes to show how our kids are playing hard, and I think that their coach said that after the game. Your kids just play so dang hard, and that's a bigger compliment than, hey, your offense was great or your kids freaking play hard.
Absolutely.
So when you hear that, you know you got something going.
Well, you talk about somebody playing hard. When Kelly and I and Brian and Jim, we talk about, when we talk about the player of the week, there's usually more than one. And there's in fact, there are never has been.
It's a 2-hour discussion usually.
It's rare that just one guy stands out. Now that does happen from time to time, but oftentimes that one guy has won it the week before, and we want somebody else. But the other name that came up, and we were trying to figure out, Kelly, between you and me, was it going to be Theo Grace with 13 and a half tackles, or were we going to watch Casey out there in the kind of game that he had?
I think Theo's got a chance. I think Theo's still got a chance.
And that is exactly what we said. So Theo, know that you are in consideration, and you certainly were this week. Don't stop what you're doing, by the way. He is. I mean, there is. Can we watch the video?
Yeah, I think Brian's got some footage of Theo.
This sums it up for me.
This sums up the second half for sure.
Yeah, let's watch this little piece of tape here. Good grief. Number 34. I mean, he looks bigger. I mean, he looks a lot bigger.
Oh, he's definitely bigger than he was last year. And that's just, part of that is he works his tail off in the weight room. He's a huge weight room kid just like Zach was. But part of that's just he's a year older. I mean, and he's just a junior, so he's going to be bigger next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So was that what was that, the A gap that he was coming through there that was just, I mean, that was, number one, that was wide open, or I don't know if he opened it himself or what, but it looked like a pretty good hole there, and he just came blowing through, and it was good night quarterback. And the one he popped the ball loose.
Yeah, it sure looked like a fumble to me there.
I know it.
But yeah, he's an absolute horse in there, and I think as you guys have seen, we had a great defense going in, and then adding him in here has just made it even better. Like, he makes plays all over the field. He just runs so much better than what we've had in there in the past. Like, he can play running back for us if we needed him to. So great athlete, does a phenomenal job in there, and is just getting better every week. I mean, I don't think he started really getting after it until week 4 or 5.
Because he was out for a few games.
Yeah, so he's just hitting his stride of about what mid-season would be.
Yeah, I think that's you start talking about you can be in shape, if you're out for a little bit for whatever reason, or you can do some things in the weight room to sort of keep you in a certain way, depending on where the injury is and all those things. But there's nothing to prepare you more for football than playing football.
Right.
And I have a feeling that's what we're starting to see here. And boy, it couldn't happen at a better time.
No doubt.
But I saw that, and I had to say, okay, that is why we weren't sure. That was worthy of Player of the Week. Let me just say, but we can only give one at a time. So, but nicely done, Theo. Among others, Tyler Jarrett and Brock Kohlauer, Gavin Warren.
Gavin got another interception this week. I think that's 3 for him. And Bryson Morrison, you got him back. He made a big play on the 4th down on the first drive to knock the ball away. So you had a lot of guys contributing on the defensive side. Yeah,
it was nice. I think we got 3 starters back this week. So that obviously anytime you get anybody back, that helps. We'll get Grant Nolan back here in the next week or so as well.
Yeah.
So we're just another piece to make us even better. So we're really excited to get Grant back as well.
That's what's phenomenal too, Coach, with the number of injuries that you've had. And you said, no one was injured in this last game, which was like the first week that it's happened.
Yeah.
But even that with the second half, I mean, and I don't know if it's because we have so many, just the depth on the team is so strong. But I mean, the second half, we just put them away entirely. And I don't know, we don't have a lot of guys that are going both ways. Maybe they've got some guys going both ways. But I mean, is that part of that? Because I mean, the second half was just incredible.
I think so. Definitely, big 55 for them. Attempted to play both ways, and our kids kind of wanted to wear him out, and did a good job with that. And then, as you guys saw, I was really proud of. We got up, and then we pulled the starters out, and we put the 2 offense in there, and the 2 offense goes on an almost 6 or 7 minute drive.
Really nice.
All the way down, and then they even got a touchdown there at the end, and a 2-point conversion. So that was, as you said, I think we just wore them out. I mean, then at that point, it was let's play Kearney football, fist fight in a phone booth, and move the sticks, and again, because they didn't pull any defensive starters out, and the two offense went in there and found ways to move the sticks and get in the end zone.
Plus, we got to look at Carter Temple, the freshman QB, which was fun to see, and he looked cool as a cucumber.
Yep. Oh, he's a national champion wrestler and a big time weight trainer, and so that the moment's not too big for him when he goes in there. And
you love that.
What I loved about it is him and Brad Dahl are kind of battling out for that 2 quarterback spot, and we knew at that point with the 2 offense in there we wanted to run the quarterback some, and nothing against Brad, just Carter's a little bit better runner, a little more physical runner than Brad is. And so Brad was in there, and I said, Carter, you're going to go. And what I loved about it, Brad Dahl was like, let's go, Carter, let's go. Like, I was so excited for him. And that just shows, again, how unselfish our kids are and how they understand it. So that was awesome. But then again, like you said, Carter goes in there and just is hammering.
Yeah.
And so the JV offense looks the same when he comes in there. They run the rock right at people. And he's also a dang good Mike linebacker. Like, he's our backup. If Theo no, I'm not even going to say it.
Don't
but
put
if Theo wasn't in there, Carter goes in at the Mike linebacker. So excited for him. That's a kid we're going to have for 3 more years after this year's.
Love the sound of it. Let's come back after a break. Stay with us. You're listening to or watching the Coach Minnick Show. We'll be right back with more with the coach. Today's business environment is more challenging than ever before. Exceeding customer expectations and staying ahead of the competition make dependable air travel essential to your business. The time-saving convenience of aircraft ownership is a more realistic solution than you might think. Imagine no lines, no waiting, and the ease of traveling on your own schedule. EquityJet is a full-service aviation management company. From aircraft acquisition, refurbishment, crew services, maintenance, and door-to-door travel service, EquityJet gets you where you're going quickly and comfortably. Find out how EquityJet can help streamline your jet travel needs. For more information, visit equityjet.net or call 816-804-7072. EquityJet. Travel is more than just getting there, it's how you get there.
Kearney Bulldog football is here, and you can listen to the game with live play-by-play action on the Bulldog Radio Network, right here on 102.7 FM, or our live stream on the KPGZ mobile app, or at 1027KMO.com. The Bulldog Radio Network will broadcast the game live on Friday, October 20th, as the Bulldogs take on the Belton Pirates. The 102.7 FM pregame show starts at 6:40, and the kickoff is at 7 p.m. Kearney Bulldog football. Catch the fever.
And welcome back to the Coach Minnick Show. Coach, who was that number 31 in that photograph? Who was that guy?
Believe it or not, that's me there. You can start to see where the hair is going. It's definitely on its way out there.
Mother Nature is cruel.
But that was senior year at Jewel there.
Wow, that is amazing. And you said, go ahead, what was the weight on that one?
That's a great picture to show our kids, because they have a hard time believing I actually played free safety in college. They said we didn't know the free safety lined up next to the nose guard, but but yeah, that was me, probably half a man ago.
That is just remarkable.
I gotta thank your dad, Steve, for providing that photo. I asked him at the game. So one of the things that I love is Coach Minnick's dad, Steve Minnick, is on the sideline at all the games, and I've gotten to know him the last couple of years. Great guy, expert rules person, obviously, with his experience, but I hit him up for a photo with Coach this week. So,
It's just interesting that he spent how many years as an official at the high school level?
Yep.
Yeah, and that what a dedication to the kids for one thing. But how many years?
Football, I think he did for 20 years. He stopped doing that once I got into high school because he wanted to watch all my games. And then I now know that he's done basketball for 30 plus, and he's still doing volleyball, and I think he's 33 or 34 years in volleyball. I know his goal is to get to 100 years total of between the three.
Wow.
And he's dang close now, but really enjoys it. He likes the extra little change in his pocket. He really likes volleyball because he goes, well, I just kind of stand there. And, he goes, now it's so easy. There's a line judge on each end. You just kind of stand there and call a lift once in a while and point one right at the other.
You're not running 100 yards at a time.
I don't think it's that easy.
Yeah, but I will tell you this. When I first started in college, I officiated basketball as well and with him. And I swear he just stood at half court and I ran the length. So that's what he gets for sending that picture to you. But no, he really enjoys that and has done it forever. And as we've said several times on here, it's awesome to have him down there on the sideline when there is a rules question I may have. I feel pretty confident in most of them. I just need like Friday there was one where they were calling hands to the face and it should have been a 10-yarder and they were giving it 5. I couldn't get him to change it either, but at least I checked with him and he's like, oh, that's right. Wow. But now this week, if he's watching, he ain't on the sideline this week after sending that picture. So, so I hope he can find a nice cushy sheet up there in the bleachers. But
I put him up to it. I think it's okay.
The interesting thing about somebody who has to know the rule book in order to be out there on the field as an official, there's no on-the-job training. You have to learn this. You have to go through all the training to get to be at least good enough to be out there and make a judgment on a play. How hard is that? Real hard, I would think.
There's a lot of rules.
A lot of rules. The game moves so fast. And at the high school level, you have, 5 officials out there, I think, or maybe 7. No, I think it's 5. So they got 22 bodies out there trying to do different things. You only got 5 eyes on it, or 5 sets of eyes. So, and kudos to those guys because they make pennies for the amount of work they do. And you never make a right call. You figure out as an official, half the stadium doesn't agree with you. So,
well, and the interesting thing about that the fans in the stands at every level of football, the officials are never really quite noticed until there's a penalty. And you're right. No matter what, you question it. You wonder. And these poor guys, they get noticed. Their notoriety is when you make a bad call.
Yeah, that's why I've never even raised my voice to any of our officials or pointed out anything incorrect.
I've never seen.
Just always very polite with them. Hey, sir, that was maybe not correct, but could you try better next time? I think that's probably the loudest I've ever been with an official.
No comment. I'm taking pictures in the first half, Coach. I think I may have seen it.
Let's talk a little bit more about our offense. Of course, Cameron Emmons having another Cameron Emmons type night. And we saw, of course, a handful of others here. We saw Jacob Dillon, I'll get this right in a minute, who's just seems to be lights out pretty much any time he gets ready to kick the ball for any reason. And so much. I got to see Trey Smith, a guy that I think is showing a lot of promise as one of our younger players, but and we've talked about his ability. Here's another guy, Kendall Davis, who I'm unfamiliar with. Let's talk about that young man for a minute.
Kendall's a sophomore running back for us. He actually, all the kids were real fired up. He got the 2-point conversion there at the end of the game, which was his first time getting in the end zone as in a varsity game. So all the kids were loving him up when he came to the sideline over there. Really hard worker. We're pretty blessed right now as far as having a whole stable of running backs. And we've got some really good young ones with not only Davis, but Tucking. Little Tucking is a going to be a really good player for us going forward as well. And then I was really proud of how Corbin Emmons played at the running back spot. Had a huge run. Starting to figure out how to deliver the blow, rather be the hammer instead of the nail at times. He took a big hit in that game too and got up and shook it off. So proud of the way he's playing, and it's kind of fun having both those Emmons boys back there and blocking for each other and playing for each other. And Cam's on his freaking tail every day at practice about, why do you not know this player? You need to know this. Or the brotherly love is definitely there, but big brother's teaching lessons every day at practice as well.
Well, and you can see, in fact, Corbin had 8 rushes for 69, and Cameron was 10 for 45 with 2 touchdowns. It doesn't much matter. I mean, if you can hand the ball to either one of them and get that kind of outcome, then certainly it's a good thing. So,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh yeah, another tremendous job rushing the ball, and like you said, you had to mix in a little bit of that, right?
Right.
I mean, a lot of running actually, but no, and it was great. I thought that was kind of a breakout game for Corbin, really, statistically anyway, and tremendous job by him.
Yeah, just great effort all the way across the board, and you can just keep talking about it. And I mean, Grandview scored 1 touchdown, and the defense just shut them down. And Kearney throughout the game ended up scoring once in the first quarter to tie it up, and then quarter after quarter it was 6, 14, and 15 for a total of 42 points. Again, as we mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show, that you're scoring 40-plus points for the last 5 games in a row. It's hard not to be satisfied with that. I get it. You're not satisfied until we're through the season and we accomplish all of our goals. Right. But it's just, man, you get to light up the scoreboard. How does that feel every time? I mean, you're just
feels good.
Does it ever get old?
No. There's a few of those games where some of my coaches talked me out of on the headsets of not sticking one more in before we roll the 2s at times. But Coach, we've got enough points, and it's like, oh, come on, one more, come on. But no, I'm just kidding there. I like getting the younger kids in there, and when a game's in hand, getting our older kids off there. So, and especially with how injury bitten we've been this year, it's try to get enough points and get them out of there. But yeah, offensively, we're just executing at a really high level right now, and that's in not only the pass game but the run game as well. And again, that's hats off to how well we're playing up front. And again, I know we've talked about Coach Backus already, but blessed to have, he's one of the best offensive lineman coaches around, and is such a good teacher. Like, not only on the football field, he's excellent. He teaches Spanish. How many offensive line coaches can you find that teach Spanish? But like, they've got some calls down there on the O-line that they say in Spanish, so I have no idea what we're doing up front anyway. But he's just such a good teacher, and you can see how it translates to him as a coach. Like, our kids understand where they go and where they fit and where their hand placement, and he's so just little bitty things. And he goes home, watches practice film, puts all the practice notes in there and sends it out to the kids. So he puts, I don't know if he ever sees his own kids, because when he does leave here, he's still at home watching, the huddle on his computer and sending notes out to the kids. But if you want to know why we're playing well on offense, it's because we're playing well up front.
And while we're on the coaches, we talked about 3 of the coaches last week. We've got Brad Kohlauer, who's the safeties coach, and Tanner Wendell for the cornerbacks.
Yep.
Let's talk about those 2 guys for a minute.
Yep. Coach Kohlauer was here when I was here as an assistant the first time. So Coach Kohlauer knew when I got this job. I was like, all right, good. He's a phenomenal coach. Coached at the college level for a while, has been a defensive coordinator, and really has no desire to be again. So you've got those guys that can be and have been in those positions, and so they understand not only just the safeties, but he understands the entire defense. And then he's also our 9th grade weights instructor, and does a phenomenal job of, because at that 8th and 9th grade level, it's where they're learning the fundamentals and learning the basics and learning the lifts. So then by the time they get to me, they know all the things. So it makes my job really easy as far as that aspect goes too. So phenomenal coach, a phenomenal human being. He's a great dad. He's got Brock on the team and handles that very well, because sometimes those are weird situations, and Brock plays safety as well. So not only is his son's on the team, he coaches him as well. So and Brock probably gets coached harder than probably anybody else as well. But does a phenomenal job. And then kind of his sidekick there in the back end is Tanner Wendell. Wendell was a Kearney alum. He won state when he was a player here. Wow. So he knows what Kearney football should be, and came from the Greg Jones era of knowing the way this town should roll and how things should be. And he does a phenomenal job coaching corners. He never played corner, but when he got here, that was the open position they had when he got here. So he's really studied that position and learned it, and it just keeps getting better and better.
It shows. It absolutely shows down on the field, Kelly. I mean, as we watch these guys, I mean, week after week, it is you can tell the difference. We talked about it last week. You know, without coaching, it doesn't matter what kind of talent you have on the field. And we looked at a pretty good team last week in the Grandview Bulldogs. There's a lot of talent out on that field. Nothing against their coaching staff at all. But I'm looking at, I'll take this coaching staff that we have right now with the Kearney Bulldogs against anybody in the city. I mean, it's a good group.
Without a doubt.
And it runs deep, and you can see the difference on the field. When an opposing coach walks up to you and says, wow, your guys play so hard, and that it's palpable, you notice, that says a lot.
Well, and I think the other thing, too, is just the connection with the kids that you talked about. The coaches are having fun. I mean, I'm on the sideline usually for the first half of most of the games, and just they're having a good time. The coaches are enjoying it. The kids are enjoying it. So it's just a really positive atmosphere that I think Coach Minnick and the staff has created in the connection with the kids. You can really see it.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's part of what makes football so much fun. And I just, as I was driving up here today, I was just thinking, man, I wish this wasn't over. It's over with so quickly. I wish football lasted all year long. I think that would wear people slick. The poor guys down on the field that have to play the game, I know. But just you hate to see it go by so quickly.
Yeah, it's wild that this is the last regular season game.
Yes.
Senior night.
Senior night. Really excited for our kids. Huge senior class. And definitely a group we'll miss. But hopefully they've got several more games in them. So we're looking forward to that. Tomorrow is our Defeat All Cancer game as well, so you'll see all our kids will be wearing a cancer color to represent somebody they're playing for. So that's always a really cool deal on that. Yeah. So don't look out there and wonder why we've got blue and greens and pinks and oranges, because they just picked the color of that cancer, and they'll be wearing that tomorrow night.
Very cool. That's awesome. Kelly, before we go into, do you want to go ahead and jump right in and let's talk about Belton?
Yeah.
Let's do, Coach. We know what they are, and they bring it same deal. They remind me a lot of Grandview from the standpoint of this. They've got, in fact, some of the other Class 5 teams that we face. They're big and they're fast and they're well coached. Let's talk about them.
Yeah, every year I called Todd Vaughn and Belton my nemesis. I feel like when I was at Raytown and now here, I think I've played him, this will be like the 11th or 12th time in 7 years. So it's like every year we'd play him, and then we'd play him in districts. And I even told him last year, I was like, I got out of your conference, and yet here you are on my schedule at the end of the year. But yeah, Coach Vaughn does a great job with those kids down there. They're always well coached. They always play hard. They play a physical brand of football of, as you said, very similar to Grandview. If they want to run the football and control the clock, I'm sure that'll be their game plan tomorrow to try to keep our offense off the field. And they are very talented at running back. You'll see number 23 for them is, I feel like he's been there for 6 years.
Yeah, I remember him from last year.
Like he's still there, and he's still there, and he's still there. But he's a phenomenal player. Definitely one that we have to pay a lot of attention to. And then they're really talented at receiver as well. Defense has their hands full again, but the big thing is if you can stop 23 in the run game and try to make them one-dimensional, we feel confident in that. And then defensively, they fly around. They try to create turnovers. They're the kind of team where you've got to get the linebackers blocked because their linebackers are always well coached on where their eyes need to be and their keys. So we've worked all week on making sure we get those guys squared up because they run the old 3-3 stack or 3-5, however you want to call it, and if you don't get those 3 linebackers blocked in there, it's going to be a long night.
Yeah. What's their record? I'm trying to think off the top.
They're
of my
5-3.
Yeah. So we know they've won some games and
Yep.
played pretty much a similar schedule to ours, or
Yep, they're in the conference above us, but at the same time, we've played several of the same opponents. Like they beat my baby Blue Jays down at Raytown last week by 1.
Yep.
But again, they're playing well. They're playing well at the right time. So it's kind of nice that we've got some more competitive games than we did last year. To be honest with you, just because felt like we had our first 3 last year, and then it was kind of not bad teams, but just a kind of a lull there where we didn't really play much really good competition until the Belton game, and I think so we showed a little rust going into that. So I think tomorrow you'll see we don't have to shake that rust off, as we've played a good Ray South team, a good Grandview team, and now we get a good Belton team.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think that's something that you kind of you avoid saying, this is a team that we know we're going to beat, or this is a team that's very beatable, or they didn't really present much of a challenge. None of those things sound it's very unsportsmanlike to mention it, but I think there is a level of competition that you want to face that keeps you at your best. We're going to come back. I want to talk about some district standings and some other things quickly. Stay with us. You're listening to or watching the Coach Minnick Show. We'll be right back. Let's talk about what's coming up in districts. Today's business environment is more challenging than ever before. Exceeding customer expectations and staying ahead of the competition make dependable air travel essential to your business. The time-saving convenience of aircraft ownership is a more realistic solution than you might think. Imagine no lines, no waiting, and the ease of traveling on your own schedule. EquityJet is a full-service aviation management company. From aircraft acquisition, refurbishment, crew services, maintenance, and door-to-door travel service, EquityJet gets you where you're going quickly and comfortably. Find out how EquityJet can help streamline your jet travel needs. For more information, visit equityjet.net or call 816-804-7072. EquityJet. Travel is more than just getting there, it's how you get there.
Kearney Bulldog football is here, and you can listen to the game with live play-by-play action on the Bulldog Radio Network, right here on 102.7 FM, or our live stream on the KPGZ mobile app, or at 1027KearneyMo.com. The Bulldog Radio Network will broadcast the game live on Friday, October 20th, as the Bulldogs take on the Belton Pirates. The 102.7 FM pregame show starts at 6:40, and the kickoff is at 7 p.m. Kearney Bulldog football. Catch the fever.
Welcome back to the Coach Minnick Show. Coach, did you know we had all these photographs? we got into the family photo.
Yeah, apparently so.
Hey, don't say that. Coach may ban me from being on the sideline.
Yeah. We're going to have a clean sideline tomorrow night.
Put that up there again, Brian. That is, look at that. Such a nice young man.
Gosh, look at that little fella.
Hey, it's senior night here at Kearney.
Yep.
That's Coach's senior year at Richmond High School, right,
Yep.
Coach? And I understand that you were a pretty amazing basketball player as well.
I like to shoot a lot. I know that. I'd like to tell the old story of my basketball coach in high school one time said, "Hey, this is basketball." And he goes, "Logan, do you think you can pass it?" I said, "Pass it? Hell, I don't even know if I can swallow it." But yeah,
You've been waiting for years to drop that joke. That is hilarious. Oh my God.
But yeah, I shot it quite a bit. The other one, I was I tell people all the time I was the best shooter in the country. We just had to play all our games in town.
Yeah.
Now you're doing stand-up, man. You're overshadowing us.
That's great. That's great.
Oh, that's terrific, though.
Well, senior night, we had to, that's what a senior looked like in a few years ago, right? Yeah, so
Yep.
we'll have 26 guys on the sideline there that are seniors this year for Kearney this Friday. So.
Yep, you'll always remember senior night. So excited for them. There'll be a few tears always.
Yeah, that's tough.
But the exciting part is we've done enough as we're getting ready to transition in here to talk about district plays. They've done enough things throughout the season that they're at least going to get one more home game, and if we take care of business there, we'll get another. So it's not their last home game. It's not their last time playing there. So I think that'll help them tomorrow as well.
Help manage those emotions a little bit.
Yeah, it makes it exciting, though, I think, for the fan base here to be able to get presumably another 3 home games for sure. And, just being able to it just feels like we've been away all season long.
Right.
And I realize we got an extra game.
Yep.
But for whatever reason, it just seems like they've all been on the road. And I guess, I don't know. I'm just glad to see it. It'd be fun to play in Bulldog Stadium. All right, so we've got... we know who's at the top of this, the number 1 seed for the moment in our district, which is Smithville at 7-1, and we, as we stand right now, Kearney is 6-2 with the 2 seed. Where does this thing go? Let's say, so I think you mentioned a little while ago that we'd face Lafayette.
Yeah, we should, unless there's some crazy forfeiting deal or anything. Who knows?
Okay.
Around the city right now, of who may forfeit or who
Yeah.
plays kids
right.
or anything else. But yes, we should get Lafayette next Friday because I don't think the outcomes of the Excelsior or Lafayette games have any impact on where they're. The points will change, but I don't think they'll change enough.
So the seeding.
The seeding should hold true there. So we're should be looking at Lafayette at home next Friday.
Yeah, so the way it works then is the 1 seed gets the bye, and like we did last year.
Yep.
And then the 2 seed would then play the lowest ranked team, and then it works its way into the middle, right?
Yep.
The 3 seed plays 6, 4 plays 5.
Yep.
Not that difficult, although as I look at these teams, we've got Smithville, Kearney, Savannah, Kirksville, Benton, Excelsior Springs, and Lafayette. I'm just going to say that you're going to go out on a limb, and I'm looking at the 1 and the 2 seed, and I'm thinking those are 2 of the probably, without a doubt, the most powerful teams in this district.
Both ranked in the top 4 in the state.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Like I think we mentioned last week, pretty crazy in our suburban conference and the lower conference, we had 3 of the top 5 ranked teams in Class 4. So that it's not, a lot of people are like, it's really kind of sucks that you guys have to play Smithville that early. And that's if we get to that point. Savannah is a dang good football team that if the rankings work out the way they should, that's who we would get in the second round. So we've got plenty of work to do before we talk about those guys in green up there. But yeah, it's who you got to get through to get there. We're hoping to get another opportunity at those guys. I think we can play them better than we did last time.
Do you know any of the coaching staff up there at Savannah?
I don't.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm not even sure who their head coach is up there.
Well, interesting that there are, Lafayette, Savannah, and for a minute it looked, and Benton are all St. Joe area. Savannah's a little further north, but
Yep.
interesting that we're playing schools that are pretty far drive.
Yep. It's kind of weird how the districts fall sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we ended up north this year, so we've got, and then the class changes too, because like Lafayette and some others have been up in the class and down in the class and kind of mixed all around depending on the enrollments, which is weird. The St. Joe School District's kind of weird on that too, of its open enrollment. So sometimes year by year, the high school enrollments can change pretty drastically depending on kids moving and switching and changing.
And the Misha does it every year now too, right,
Yep.
Coach? So your district changes every year based on that enrollment
Yep.
and the reorganization. Like you said, we're north this year, so that was a rule that went into place a few years ago.
Yep.
So that's going to change every year.
Can they move
So-
Smithville out? How would that be?
So, but for back to the Belton game, not a conference game, but senior night, you want to keep that momentum that you've got. You know, we've talked about the offense having 5 games over 40. The defense has had 5 games 13 or under, which you said is your goal. So you'd love to see that momentum continue tomorrow night.
Yeah, 40-something to less than 13 would be
I
awesome.
like it. I like that.
We would definitely take that, but we'll take a 3-2 win if we need to. That's one of our offensive goals: score 1 more point than the defense allows. So the kids always like getting that bone on their helmet. That's a pretty easy one to get there when you beat somebody.
You get the W. Yeah, that's the most important part.
Well, even though it's the last regular game of the season, getting a couple of district games to follow, as we mentioned earlier, is great for the fans and great for the football junkies like we are who can't get enough of this stuff. But it is exciting, and senior night's going to be a lot of fun. And like you say, it'll have a certain level of emotion to it. And I know as a parent of my oldest son played football, and that night is it's tough on the moms and dads. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
And but it's really neat to sort of reflect on what got them to all the way through. In football, from a lot of the kids started when they were 10 years, maybe even younger, but
Right.
from 10 years old or so, and going through grade school and then all the way to high school to an actual senior night in a game that's pretty meaningful and
No doubt.
with a bunch of great kids. It's tough.
Well, and I was going to mention one thing along the youth. I had the pleasure of being the public address announcer for the Kearney Youth Tournaments two weekends here, and I'm recognizing some of your plays out there from our younger
Yeah.
groups all the way down to 4th grade. I'm like, oh, that looks like the play we run to Cameron right there. Had the ham package in there a little bit. So coaches, to your point, there's some of these guys, especially in Kearney, we've got some really good youth programs.
Yep.
Started at a young age. I think the youngest group that I saw was 4th grade. But Coach, I don't know if you want to talk about that. Obviously, you've worked with those guys a little bit, so they have some of your offense and maybe some defense.
Oh yeah, we clinic those guys every year, and what I love about our Kearney coaches is they want those guys to come to Kearney High School and be Bulldogs and be part of our program. So they're very open to running our schemes and running our terminology, and now
that's great.
There's obviously some little variations, and it's not as advanced. But they are, as you said, running our plays and running our offense and running the flex bone stuff with emotions, and they get excited like when a play works, or double handoff is a big play we run. The youth coaches will send me video. Hey, coach, check out this DHO that went. And so
That's cool.
I'm glad they're enjoying it, and I'm glad that because they win almost all those grade levels are really competitive and win a bunch of their games. So they expect when they get to high school that it needs to continue the winning.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can keep putting a product on the field that makes those guys proud. And the just awesome part is they get it and they understand that what they're doing is preparing those guys to be high school Bulldogs. And the more they buy into it, the better product we're going to have at our level. And we have a great group of coaches. Like I think every team's got 4 or 5 coaches, and
Oh yeah.
they do a really good job. Like our young kids are well coached. Like even when we do our clinic stuff, they ask really good questions, or they're already very knowledgeable. So we're blessed to have that as part of our Kearney community, because it's a huge part of building a football program that lasts.
Yeah, and obviously even at that age, I know every once in a while you'll see a kid that just stands out. With the level of talent, the really great ones that you say that guy's gonna be somebody, and but you're also, there's no doubt there are others that are out there that as they develop and grow a little bit bigger and gain a little more knowledge and grasp the playbook and so forth, all of a sudden you got, and we see it even at the high school level where a guy might have it all come and click, their senior year. We've seen a lot of that this year.
Yep, we've got several seniors who didn't start as juniors that are now starters who, as you said, they get it and it's their time and they're making plays. And again, and even some that regretted not coming out as sophomores and juniors that are now out, that they're starting for us and making a lot of plays.
Yeah, well, let that be a lesson to all you guys who are roaming the halls with football talent. It'll be regrettable if you don't do this thing. All right, Coach. Well, this is going to be it for the regular season, and do not forget, get out there at 6:40, or at least dial us up at 6:40 on 102.7 FM, and we'll be Kelly and I will be there doing the play-by-play, and I'll be helping along with the analysis after the play, and I'll tell you what you already heard. But Kelly does a terrific job, and it's just great to have you there. And we miss Jim, but Jim's going to be back. I don't know when, soon, I hope. But he's next week, because Brian said, yep. All right, that's it. We're done here. Next week, we will be back, hopefully, with another 40 points or more on the board. Thanks for being with us today on the Coach Minnick Show.